In the world of financial analysis, there are just tons of reports getting pushed out every single day. But let's be honest, how many of those actually get read, let alone remembered and acted upon? Today, we're going to dig into what separates all that noise from the real signal. We're talking about how to craft a research report that truly, genuinely makes an impact.
Okay, so let's get right to the heart of it. Every analyst out there, they have access to the exact same annual reports, the same quarterly filings, the same mountain of data. It's a totally level playing field. So if the information is the same for everybody, how does one analyst manage to cut through all that clutter and make a real difference?
And here's the big secret, the thing that changes the game. The real differentiator isn't some hidden piece of data you've uncovered. Nope, it's not about what you find, it's all about how you present it. It comes down to the structure of your argument, the clarity of your insights, and, frankly, the conviction in your delivery.
So here's our roadmap for today. We're going to start with the big picture, the analyst's dilemma. Then we'll get into the anatomy of a great report, move on to the nitty-gritty of going from data to draft, and we'll even spend a minute decoding analyst ratings. After that, we'll talk about a secret weapon I call the checklist manifesto, and wrap it all up with what might be the most important piece of all, your investment discipline.
All right, first up, the analyst's dilemma. Look, we live in an age of total information overload. Your job isn't just to analyze data anymore, it's to create clarity. You have to be the one who cuts through all that noise and tells people what it all actually means.
So how do you actually solve that dilemma? Well, it all starts with the fundamentals. Let's take a look at the anatomy of a truly great research report by breaking down its core principles.
Every great report really just boils down to 4 key things. First, you need clarity of idea. Can you state your entire investment thesis in a single sentence? Then, there's simplicity of delivery, avoiding all that jargon and complexity just for the sake of it. The argument itself has to be crystal clear and logical, leading the reader step by step to your conclusion without any weird jumps. And finally, it needs a strong narrative structure. You're not just listing facts, you are telling the investment story of this company.
And on the flip side, here's exactly where most reports completely fall apart. They either drown you in totally unnecessary detail, or they confuse you with complex language and these long, rambling sentences. Seriously, without a clear structure or a consistent point of view, even the most brilliant analysis gets completely lost. It's all about that poor delivery.
Okay, so the theory is great and all, but how do you actually build one of these things? The entire writing process can really be broken down into a super disciplined 3-step system: plan, draft, and edit.
Now this process, it's all about discipline, not waiting for inspiration to strike. The planning stage is absolutely crucial, especially during those chaotic earnings seasons. Setting deadlines for each section is what keeps you on track. Then, the drafting is all about execution. You use your firm's template and just focus on getting the facts and your views down on paper. And finally, the edit. This part is completely non-negotiable. You have to go back and meticulously check every single figure, every sentence. A single typo can completely destroy your credibility. And here is a really critical distinction to make during that drafting process. Some sections are just purely fact-based. Think about financials or pure analysis. That's just data gathering. But the view-based sections, like key strengths, key concerns, the business overview, this is where the real analysis happens. This is where you synthesize what you're hearing from management, what you're seeing in the market, and your own insights to add your unique value.
All right, let's switch gears for a second to something every investor sees but might not fully understand: analysts' ratings. They seem simple enough, but honestly, the terminology can be pretty tricky. So here's a quick guide to decoding them.
So the classic buy, hold, sell rating, that's usually about absolute return over a specific time frame, like, say, the next 12 months. But terms like overweight or underweight are different. They're measuring a stock's expected performance relative to the entire market. Outperformer, on the other hand, compares it just to its direct competitors in its own sector. So what's the key takeaway here? These terms are not universal. Always check the definitions page in the back of the report.
And now, let's talk about what might be the single most powerful tool for any analyst or investor: the checklist. Now, this is not just a to-do list, okay? Think of it more like a professional methodology, the same kind used by airline pilots and surgeons to ensure discipline and eliminate those completely avoidable errors.
This whole idea is just perfectly captured by Dr. Atul Gawande in his book, The Checklist Manifesto. He makes this really powerful distinction between 2 types of errors. You have errors of ignorance, which happen when you just don't have the facts, but then you have errors of ineptitude, and those happen when you have all the facts, but you fail to use them correctly. Checklists are the ultimate weapon against that second, much more preventable kind of failure.
The benefits here are just huge. A checklist acts like a guardrail against lazy mistakes and shortcuts. It forces you to make objective, fact-based decisions, especially when emotions like fear or greed are running high. And, crucially, it creates a record. A year from now, you can look back and know exactly why you made a certain call, which is honestly the key to learning and improving your process over time.
So what actually goes on a pro-level checklist? Well, it's not just about PE ratios. It's about asking these really fundamental questions, like, do I truly understand how this business makes money? Or what is its durable competitive advantage, its moat? And my personal favorite, can a fool run this business? Which is just a fantastic test for simplicity and resilience. These are the kinds of questions that force you to move beyond the spreadsheet and think like a true business owner.
And that brings us to our final and, I think, most important takeaway. All of these tools, the structure, the process, the checklist, they all point to one central theme: discipline. Because at the end of the day, a great report is simply the output of a great process. In the long run, the market has this funny way of rewarding that kind of disciplined, methodical thinking. And at the same time, it punishes choices made out of emotion or just sheer disorganization. Ultimately, the quality of your process is what determines the quality of your results. It's really that simple. So as we wrap up, I just want to leave you with this one final thought. If discipline is the bridge that connects your goals to your achievements, then the checklist is the blueprint for building that bridge. It's all about being intentional. So the real question is, what's on your checklist?